Fine. So, good morning, one and all. Let's stand up for the reading of the United Counties of Prescott Russell Mandate and Vision. Our vision, Prescott and Russell, continues to be a community that's united by its tradition and its culture, working towards the prosperity of all of its citizens. Lord, please shed light on our deliberations and our decisions. Help us to accomplish our work for the greater well being of those we represent. All right, roll call. Everyone's here, I believe. Disclosures of conflicts of interest. Any conflicts of interest to declare at this time? None? Fine. Let's go on to the adoption of the agenda. Someone to move and second that we adopt the agenda. Moved by Mayor Kirby and seconded by Mayor Barton. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Let's go on now to the adoption of the agenda. The adoption of the minutes of the inaugural meeting of December 16th, 2015, and then the in-camera meeting of January the 13th, 2016. So I need someone to move and second that we approve the minutes. Any comments on the minutes of both meetings? Moved that we adopt the minutes, moved by Mayor Leroux and seconded by Mayor Saint-Amour. Thank you. Let's go on now to petitions and delegations. There are none this morning. Item 7, communications, information correspondence. We've received correspondence with regard to a new one-time application-based grant program with regards to the Electric Vehicle Chargers Ontario. Also from the Ontario and Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing regarding the Smart Growth for Our Communities Act. We also received correspondence from the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change regarding source water protection plans. Also from the Ministry of Energy regarding electricity prices. And finally from the United Townships of Head, Clara and Maria asking the province to assume responsibility for auto extrication on provincial highways not protected by local fire departments. Moved by Mayor Leroux and seconded by Mayor Dicker. Any comments? Yes, Mayor Dicker? Well, with regard to the fire hydrant matter, do we intend to get involved in this and put forward a request for additional grants? Well, thank you, Mr. Warden, and Mr. Mayor, members of council. During the last committee of the whole, I believe we were told to apply for a grant before the deadline date, of course, which is February the 12th. We're in the process of finishing up the grant request. We're going to finish it up this week. We're awaiting estimates from the electrician that's involved, as well as Hydro One, for a new line to be brought in. Apparently, it was a bit more complicated to bring in the service that would cater to the needs of level 3 clients. I know that we also have the intention of applying this principle and installing those lines in our area. Do you intend to consult individual municipalities? Well, Mr. Warden and Mr. Mayor, we're a bit late in the game. We thought we'd put forward an earlier application, but we didn't really have the time to fine-tune anything. We didn't have the time to consult any individual municipalities with that regard. So, are you also applying for a level 3 request, are you? Well, see, they're trying to promote the level 3 components or component of this particular program, the fast charging component. We're going to apply for level 2 fast charging components and level 2 for those that are not fast charging. Those that don't use commercial vehicles, well, those that use common day commercial vehicles. Yes, that's fine. Any other questions then? All those in favor? Thank you. Carried then. Let's go on to action correspondence. None. 7.3 resolutions from other municipalities from the town of Hawkesbury regarding the increase in the number of tie-ups. Mayor Charlebois. Moved by Mayor Charlebois and seconded by Mayor Leroux. Would anyone else care to make any comments? Well, thank you, Mr. Warden. I believe that for those who have been fishing for quite a while now, those longtime fishermen, uh, pike fish is the number of pike and pickerels is reducing, has been decreasing greatly in the past few years. There's a lot of waste involved in uncontrolled fishing. I believe that if we want to preserve this tourist attraction here in within the United Counties of Prescott and Russell, I'm not against the second resolution, but as far as the first resolution, I am squarely all for against it, however. All those in favor? Well, yes, you'll have to turn on your microphone to make a comment. Well, the resolution was brought to Town of Hawkesbury's council table by Councillor Yves Paquette, who's fishing aficionado. I talked to him about Mayor Dicare's concerns. I talked to him about Mayor Dicare's concerns. Now, in light of discussions I had with him, he had no worries about this. As you all know, the Outaouais River, especially winter fishing, is quite popular. There are some villages, actually, along the Ottawa River, on both sides of the river, that take part in winter fishing activities. We deem it quite favorable to stimulate tourism and also to cater to the needs of those fishing enthusiasts. We ask that this be equitable for both sides, both in Quebec and in Ontario. I'll leave things that way, but I do appreciate, however, Mayor Dicare's comments. Any other comments? All those in favor, then? All those opposed? Well, Mr. Warden, you know, it's not clear in my mind who's opposed and who's in favor. There are some members that didn't even raise their hands. As an assistant clerk, I must tell you that as mayors, you have to decide one way or the other. So those in favor of the resolution. 2. Those opposed. 6. So, I think we did better this time around, didn't we? All right, then. We'll have to practice after meetings. Yes, that's right. We're still in the holiday spirit. I'm sorry. All right. Resolution from the Town of Hawkesbury regarding boundary limits on the Ottawa River. Mayor Charlebois, could you please expound on this? Yes, what Mr. Paquette explained to Council with regards to the boundary limits on the Outaouais River, that's when the resolution was brought to our attention. Not everyone, of course, has use of GPS instruments. Sometimes they might wind up on the Quebec side of the Outaouais River, and the Quebec enforcement officers might issue tickets to those who would have strayed on the other side of the river. So we're asking, of course, that the proper tickets be issued on the proper side, where the infraction or where the offense was contracted. So seconded by Mayor Barton. Any questions or comments with regards to this? Mr. Saint-Amour? Well, you see, this particular problem, now for the past few years, has been quite manifest. Now, for the past 3 or 4 years, though, Mr. Warden, I must tell you this, there hasn't been harassment, not harassment, but actions taken that are akin to harassment. This river borders closely both the provinces of Quebec and Ontario. I would like that the fishermen be treated equally on one side as well as the other side of that particular river. Fine, then. Any other comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, then. Correspondence from the City of Kingston, with respect to the basic income guarantee. Moved by? Well, I guess we're... Nobody to move. this motion for any further consideration then? Well, to move that we file it, to receive and file it. Moved by Mayor Zicao, seconded by Mayor Leroux. All those in favor? Carried then. Thank you. Resolution from the City of Kingston with respect to the basic income guarantee. Oh, or should I say, from the municipality of East Ferris, requesting that all real estate transactions require the issuance to solicitors of municipal property reports that provide information concerning zoning compliance and outstanding work orders with respect to the fire and building codes. Moved by Mayor Barton and seconded by Mayor Leroux. Well, I've proceeded to research with regards to this. It takes a great deal. It takes a while, you know, to confirm zoning, any tax arrears that might be involved in the purchase of a given property, and so on and so forth. Unless there's a set amount that is required by the municipality, by the target municipality, within this particular resolution, I'd be hard-pressed to second this resolution. Well, you see, it's going to require of us a lot of work. Well, individual municipalities might wish to charge the amount they wish to charge. It's up to them. Yes, but as things stand right now, if lawyers request it, you know, when they work on their tax certificates, you know, they'll ask, you know, what's the zoning, what's the confirming zoning bylaw, and they'll charge as a result of the information that they received. Now, they're asking that this be mandatory each and every time that they file for a property acquisition. But there's no, there's absolutely no observation or mention about any given fees with regards to this. You know, that a municipality be allocated a given amount for this particular, that's fine. So that's why I won't support it, because there's no set fee with regards to this. Mr. Parisien, do you have any comments? Well, Mr. Warden, council members, this is local jurisdiction. We don't deal with this at the county level, so I'm really not aware of this. Well, as far as I'm concerned, individual municipalities will decide as to what amount should be charged for this particular service. The onus is upon them to approve, and then we decide what we should approve or not. Mayor Barton, do you have anything to say? Well, Mr. Warden, I believe that we should at least to support the County of East Ferris. You would think that lawyers would do that as a matter of practice, but I guess they don't do it everywhere. All right. Mayor Saint-Amour? Well, thank you, Mr. Warden. Yes, because, of course, you know, whenever legal transactions are involved, there's when a new owner, for example, purchases title insurance, it only frees lawyers from proceeding to proper research. It liberates them from doing that. See, buyer beware. If you have a good lawyer, you don't purchase title insurance, you might tell the lawyer, do the work. But it happened way too often in the past, and it still behooves local municipalities to charge whatever it wishes to. I know that in our municipality, we charge a stipend, not very much, and sometimes they are encouraged to rely on title insurance, but they always find discrepancies even after the fact, and it's unbelievable because these are private transactions that come into play, and when we charge for the time that we've put in to cater to the needs of the clients that come to us for service, we can't comment whether or not it's a good transaction or not. It doesn't compel us, and we are not mandated, and we should not comment on the quality of the transaction that just occurred. Councillor Charlebois, or Mayor Charlebois, with regards to code compliance, with regards to the sale and transfer of land can result. You see, there's a problem with this wording. There are some houses that have been built for quite a while now, and prior to zoning being pegged in, do they comply? You see, your construction officer could not tell you that. A house that was built in the 1940s, you know, in the 1930s and 1940s, at that particular point in time, there were no zoning bylaws, there were no construction directives, but since then, the building code code has been enacted here in Ontario. So, you see, there are some cases in which the buyer is left bereft of any help or blind. Now, if the buyer has not proceeded to any site plan, you can't determine how far you are from the line, the property line, and the construction permit doesn't state it because of the fact that that property or that house has been built in the 1940s and 1950s. There's a lot of information here that leads to that, really, and leads to that conclusion. Now, imagine, for example, if your urban planner is not able to state whether this is legal non-conforming or not. Was the building properly constructed? Who knows? There were no construction permits issued at that time. Might lead to a lot of difficulties. I know what you're saying, though, because we've all had experiences when we had occasion to purchase a house. We purchased a house, everything's nice, but when comes time for you to sell the house, well, you're closer, you might find out that you're closer to the property line that you thought, and then you're seeking for minor variance. So the municipality cannot guarantee that everything conforms, Mr. Warden, in such circumstances. Everything conforms to the current directives, and the province at this point in time requires that we do so. So I believe that individual municipalities should look at this through the eyes of individual bylaw enforcement officers, and building officials, as well as municipal officials, to make sure that documents do conform to the directives. Well, Mr. Warden, I've had occasion to read the resolution. Let me risk this particular comment. It bears directly to what Mr. Saint-Amour's comments were. If you take a look at the third and the fourth whereas the municipality of East Ferris has seen a reduction in the numbers of such requests being made by solicitors and real estate agents for property sales, indicating that there is title insurance, and whereas failure to identify and address concerns and issues regarding zoning and code compliance, part of the sale and transfer of land, can result in an increase of demand of municipal resources and increased costs of property owners. If you read between the lines, it seems to say that if there is title insurance, the work's not performed by lawyers, and at that point in time, municipalities receive outside of the parameters of the transaction a number of requests that probably would have been paid beforehand, for services that probably would have been paid beforehand. If there's no title insurance and you say to your lawyer, you proceed with research, and he does so for you, then those become disbursements. You'll have to pay that to your lawyer as a purchaser. If you take on title insurance, you say, well, everything's okay, it's going to cost me much less, and after there are any problems, we'll tap into the municipal resources to make sure that everything's smoothed out. The intent of this resolution is that everything be done properly to make sure that life is much easier. Life is made much easier for your employees. Yes? Well, thank you, Mr. Warden. I believe that this letter was sent to us for information purposes. Now, the resolution, as it stands, does not ask us to do anything whatsoever. It simply states that at the end of the process, the report is sent to the Governor of Ontario. So I just propose that we receive it, and that's it. Moved by Mayor Leroux and seconded by Mayor Charlebois, then. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, then. Department reports. Administration clerk, none. Finance, monthly accounts. Please read the resolution. Be it resolved that Council approves the salaries and accounts paid as follows. Total salaries of $2,515.80 for November 2015, as well as accounts for November and December 2015, pages 1 to 21, items 1 to 674, for a total of $6,136,613.74. Any questions? Moved by Mayor Saint-Amour and seconded by Mayor Leroux. All those in favor, then? Carried. Thank you. Report F001, 2006. Accounts receivable write-off for the provincial offenses. Mrs. Bureau? Well, Mr. Warden, members of council, my first report is to recommend the write-off of those provincial offenses account that we deem to be non-recoverable. Now, to give you a bit of information, since 2008, we've annually proceeded to the write-off of a certain amount of money. We've written off $2,733,710 since 2008. This amount stemmed from offenses dating back to 1971 right up to 2010. Now, the total of offenses to be received for Prescott Russell amounts to approximately $7,739,000. This amount, unfortunately, increases from year to year. Just to give you a bit of information as to this, we're quite comparable to other provincial offenses offices throughout the province, and all POA offices in other municipalities are in the same situation as we are. Now, in order to recuperate or to those write-offs, there's a process in place and to ask after a 45-day delay for payment. After 65 days, the permit is suspended. Unfortunately, not in all cases because we cannot suspend any permits, but when we're allowed to do so, we will suspend a driver's license. And a final notice is sent after 90 days. And after 120 days, those offenses that have not been paid and collected are sent to the collection agency. Now, in all, for the past 10 years, the collection agencies which we have dealt with have allowed us to recuperate approximately $226,000. Now, we've gone through all of these sums that we still have yet to receive, and we've estimated that those non-recoverable items stemming from companies that do not exist anymore, from those individuals that have died, and this amount totals $25,740. Those are the 11 accounts that are identified here. There are many other sums to be received in the amount of $3,082,062. Now, from a conservative standpoint, we only want to write off those 11 points that total $25,149. The other amounts we'll receive in the computer system that is supplied to us by the province of Ontario, and we wish to keep them in our system because we wish that there might be one day a law that will change that will allow us to recover those amounts at the time in which someone renews his or her driver's license or changes plates. At this point in time, it's not the case, however. And we also have a bit of an archaic system that is supplied to us by the province of Ontario. Now, to remove these amounts from the system at present requires a lot of work, and it's even more difficult to put them back into the system. So I think we should just write off those this $25,000 amount because of the fact that those companies don't exist anymore or the individuals have died. Now, because these sums have been removed from our computer system, it doesn't mean that the debt is forgiven. The debt still remains with regards to the individual or the entity and the corporation. So therefore, I'm asking that we approve this. Well, fine. Whereas Council took note of report F001 2016, accounts receivable write-off for the provincial offences. And whereas Council realizes that it is appropriate and necessary to write off all accounts receivable deemed uncollectible from the Integrated Court Offences Network and for which we are authorized to write off, be it resolved that Council authorize the Treasurer to write off all outstanding accounts receivable deemed non-recoverable in the amount of $25,149. All those in favor? Councillor Saint-Amour? Moved by Councillor Mayor Leroux and seconded by Mayor Saint-Amour. Carried then. Let's go on now to the next report, statistical information for the Provincial Offences Act. Well, my second report will give you the statistical information with regards to the activities carried out by the Provincial Offences Act Office. Because all surpluses stemming from the Provincial Offences Act Office are distributed through local municipal offices, I believe it might be advisable for you to be aware of what's going on at the POA office. Appendix A states that the number of offences greatly reduced since 2012. We've reached a maximum of 18,987 offences. Now, this year, in 2015, we'll peak out at 11,578 offenses. Now, because the number of offenses decrease, the revenues, the income decreases. We started off with 3,756,000 to 1,800,000 and some odd thousand, which is a substantial decrease. The accounts receivable are more or less stable. Now, they've still increased by 6,569,000 to 136,000 at the end of 2015. Now, for information purposes, you have also the amount of reimbursements, the number of reimbursements that we were called upon to pay to the Ministry of Transportation of Ontario. This money is not kept by us and is returned back to the province. We collect the money, but we do not keep the information, nor do we keep the money. Now, Justice of the Peace fees have decreased for the past few years, as well as the Crown Attorney. Now, the money that is taken out from other courts, the same goes to the Ministry of Transport. This money is collected and given back to the municipalities in which courts operate. You'll notice also that the number of trials greatly decreased during the course of the past few years. That means that there's not as many requests for trials to be heard, and we adopted a different way of doing things during these past few years that avoided us getting involved in trials. Now, this is the extent of my report, and I'm available for any questions you might have. Well, thank you, Mr. Warden. Mrs. Minot, you see, I take a look at the statistics that you've handed to us, and I notice, of course, I won't take into consideration the 2015 data, but in 2014, we notice there's a decrease of approximately 28% of offenses, ticketed offenses. Now, this report does not state, of course, there are 3 detachments within all of our jurisdictions, 3 OPP detachment, Ontario Provincial Police. Now, does this decrease impact more of a particular detachment as opposed to the 2 others? If that's the case, I'd like to, because all detachment commanders met with us, and they told us that they were proceeding to prevention measures. They were applying prevention measures more than others, more than anything else. Well, Mr. Warden, Mayor Diquette, I'm not able to answer that particular question. I don't have this information before me, and I'm not sure even if that information would be available through our computer system or through the available data, but I could obtain the information and come back to you if it does exist. Mr. Warden, members of council, you remember that when the Ontario Provincial Police, the detachment commanders met with you, they told you 2 things. Number 1, the POA is not a revenue generating tool. I remember that the detachment commanders indicated that to us. And the second point that they made clear to us was that the drivers are more compliant. That people now are wiser when driving along our roadways. This is what I retain from their presentations. That's why the Provincial Offences Act revenues are ever decreasing. Fine. Any other questions? I need someone to move and second that we adopt the statistical information moved by Mayor LaMadeleine and seconded by Mayor Diquette. All those in favor? Fine, thank you. Economic development and tourism, nothing. Nothing for the residence either. Let's go on now to human resources. Report RH-001/2016, mileage rates revision as of February 1st, 2016. Well, thank you, Mr. Warden and members of council. You remember about 2 weeks ago during the committee of the whole meeting, we had occasion to talk about this particular subject matter, and I mentioned at that point in time that the rates were released in December. Each and every year, the federal government publicizes or makes public those rates. And each and every time, this is adopted, and though in and thus we submit those two resolutions, one that applies for council members and for employees. And this follows the rates that have been released and approved by the federal government with regards to employee travel. My recommendation is that we group those two resolutions into one to make sure that the rates are the same and applied blanketly throughout, and that Mrs. Latreille, following the recommendation being implemented, will automatically adhere to the rates that are imposed each and every year. So each and every year when the new rates are released, they will be applied retroactively, and we won't have to revise them annually and proceed to a new reading of a new resolution each and every year and go through that process again. Fine. Whereas the Human Resources Director presented report RH-001/2016 to Council in order to review the mileage reimbursement rates and the per diem for meal compensation for the UCPR personnel and members of Council. Be it resolved that Council authorize the mileage adjustment as per the Canada Revenue Agency for the year 2016 to 54 cents per kilometer for the first 5,000 kilometers driven and 48 cents per kilometer driven after that, and recommend that the per diem of $52 and $75 for meal compensation without or with overnight stay respectively remain unchanged for 2016, and recommend authorizing an automatic change of the mileage rates for employees and members of Council following changes to the taxable benefit ceiling adopted by the Canada Revenue Agency. Any questions as to this? Moved by Mayor Ledoux and seconded by Mayor Kirby. All those in favor? Fine. Let's go on now to the next report, RH-002/2016, Human Resources Statistical Report for September, October, and November 2015. Mr. Roy. Well, thank you again, Mr. Warden, members of Council. We've just mentioned now with regards to statistics a few things. Now, I won't go into detail with regards to all graphs that are before you. If you have any questions, you might ask them at any time this morning, or you can contact me at any time. I might like to mention maybe just one thing. Now, Appendix C that is handed to you at least once a year that details where our individual employees lives, and that's the most visual appendix that is handed to you throughout the year. I'd just like to mention to you that this is a great example of cooperation between departments, and I'd like to thank Mr. Prévost and employees of his department that helps us to come up with this type of graph or presentation to you. Thank you then. Moved by Mayor Saint-Amour. Fine. Seconded by Mayor Ledoux. That this be adopted. All those in favor? Carried then. Thank you. All right, folks. Let's go on now to social services. Report SS-001/2016. Regular statistics information for November and December 2015. Mrs. Anne Comtois-Lalonde. Well, good morning, Mr. Warden. So, in effect, Mr. Warden and members of Council, you have before you the regular statistics for the Social Services Department for November 2015. Now, in November 2015, 1,172 Ontario Works files were open, and 2,089 beneficiaries, adults and dependents, should I say, 473 active files as beneficiaries in our residences or retirement homes, for a total of 1,633 active files, 2,562 beneficiaries. I'd like to ask you now to refer to data on page 4. Page 4 now, approximately the first third of the page, upper third, there 108 children received special needs care, integrated care, and right underneath, 198 children received services from our home care services, 198 with 44 home care workers, 198 children. Page 6, if you'll refer to that data, 871 families, as well as 592 individuals 60 years or over are waiting for indexed housing as of November 2015. Let's go on now to December, should I say. Now, in December, 1,191 Ontario Works files were open, and 2,120 adult and dependent beneficiaries. 418 individuals were in our centers. There were none on the waiting list for a total of 1,169 files and 2,198 beneficiaries. Page 4, with regards to December data, 114 children received special needs, special care, and 192 children received daycare services through our home care service. Page 6, 858 families, as well as 572 individuals 60 age and over were awaiting indexed housing. Available indexed housing. Those are the statistical data applicable to November and December 2015. Any questions? Mayor Charlevoix. I'm sorry, Mrs. Courtois-Lalonde, for not having phoned you beforehand for the question I'm going to ask you now. We know that there was some money available to repair buildings or to convert some buildings into low-cost housing. Did we proceed to any requests last year to obtain any contractors to help us convert those said homes for county's use? Well, Mayor Charlevoix and members of council, in the money that we received from grants received, we decided that this money would be diverted to income supplement, housing repair, and private housing, but not for businesses per se. I need someone to move and second that we adopt the report, moved by Mayor Charlevoix and seconded by Mayor Lamadeleine. All those in favor carried then. Thank you. Let's go on now to report of committees. Committee of the Whole report of January the 13th, 2016. Any questions on the report? Moved by Mayor Leroux and seconded by Mayor Dicker. All those in favor carried then. Thank you. Question period to department heads. Well, all of you are quiet this morning. There are no questions then. Well, let's keep on keeping on then. Resolutions arising from committee reports, fines. Well, let's go on now to bylaw 2016-01 and 02. Be resolved that council that the following bylaws be adopted by the Council of the United Counties of Prescott Russell to increase the mileage allowance for council members, officers, and staff as of January 1st, 2016, and 02 to confirm the permanence of the director. Oh, I'm sorry. We're just dealing with 01 because 02 will be dealt with in a closed meeting. Let me help you out, Madam Clerk and Mr. Warden. If we deal with this in a closed meeting, I will withdraw this particular subject with regards to 01 from the agenda. I have nothing to add with regards to this subject. I've dealt with this in the Committee of the Whole, but I have no further information. Now, with regards to the 001 2016 report, unless you might have any questions, we're not compelled to go to a closed meeting. So you might, unless you wish to. Is everyone in agreement with that then? Well, then let's just continue on, shall we? So 2016-02 to confirm the permanent hiring of the director of the tourism department administrator. Moved by Mayor Leroux and seconded by Mayor Lamadeleine. All those in favor? Carried then. Well, thank you. All right then. Let's go on now to the ratification bylaw -03. Council ratify bylaw 03 to adopt all measures and bylaws as well as resolutions that were adopted during the course of this particular meeting of the 27th of January 2016, moved by Mayor Leroux and seconded by Mayor Kirby. All those in favor? Carried. Adjournment called at 9:41 a.m. Oh, are there any questions for any of our department heads? Any questions or announcements maybe? I thought we were going to go around the table. Sorry. Any announcements? Mayor Charlebois. Well, I'd like to congratulate, by the way, Mrs. Carole Lavigne for this new position that she's inherited and continue the great work that you've started and continue to do. So thank you. Thank you, Mayor Charlebois and members of council. Any other announcements? Mayor Ledoux, Mr. Warden, maybe, I believe there's an event tomorrow morning with regards to the Lorgnal packing. That's the 28th of January, and Mrs. Leving, you might say a few words as to this. Well, Mayor Ledoux, members of council, the Agro-Food Network in Eastern Ontario will open its second local product kiosk tomorrow at L'Oréal Packing, at the booth, if you wish. So there's a press conference held to this effect tomorrow morning. You're all welcome. Any other announcements? Well, the old-timers Canadian hockey team will be playing at the Robert Hartley Sportsplex in Hawkesbury. We also have the inaugural opening of our multifunctional ice rink, and I have individual invitations for all members of this particular council to attend. And we also will be celebrating Family Day, and we will be advertising all activities held during the course of Family Day. This is going to be done in partnership with 100% or 100% active, 100% active, as well as Valoris. Mayor Barton? Well, thank you, Mr. Warden. I'd like to invite everyone at the L'Oréal, the Grand L'Oréal Carnival that's going to be held from 4th to the 7th February. It's well organized and well attended by the people in the region. So if you want to have and come have a good time, we'd appreciate having you here. Not this weekend coming, but the next weekend. Thank you. Well, if you have nothing to do this particular weekend, there's a big weekend that's going. There's a big carnival at Saint Pascal Bénon, and on the 12th of February, there's one at Clarence Creek also. That's going on, so you're all invited. I won't be able to attend this weekend, unfortunately. I'll be away, but any other announcements? Well, that's it then. So adjournment called at 9:42 then. Moved by Mayor Saint-Amour and seconded by Mayor Ledoux. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much then, folks, and we'll see you again next month.